Right now this is a set of tools for doing a motor swap in the field. We have it on the hoist so you guys can see better with the camera, and I'm going to use an impact to do this just to speed it up. You need a wire cutter, 7/16 socket on a 6-inch extension, 7/16 wrench, 9/16 wrench, and a 3/4 inch wrench. If it's sitting on the ground, you can just, like, drive it on a log or set it on a rock or anything with the rider in it. You can do this. Just tip the seat all the way forward. It gives you a little more real estate in here to get your tools in. You can get it off the ground, so you can pop this wheel off, pop the bottom side of the track off, and you can leave the track on it sitting right here, and it'll still be hanging on that front wheel without removing the track. I'm going to remove it just so it's easier to see. Take your 9/16, you can use the wrench or an impact. We will reuse the same sprocket, bolt holders, double-head accessory pockets. Pull this off, don't lose the keyway. If you lose it in the sand, you're going to have a tough time finding it. Usually what I do, since you have to reuse this hardware and this mount to put a new motor on, is just take that whole mount loose. See my magnetic bin? Buy some. These bolts will come out hard if you do not release these two. Just crack them loose so there's no pressure on them from that spring washer. Just let that hang down. Take your 7/16s, lift up this plate that has the wiring zip tied to it. It's plastic, very flexible. Stick it underneath. Put the wrench on the other side. Remove those two bolts since we're doing a swap, not just a tension. One on the bottom side here too. Wire cutter, snip these two zip ties without cutting the other wires to release the motor wire that we're going to need. Unplug that motor, just hang it down right here, and you can grab that wire when you pull it out so it doesn't hook on everything. There's two ways to do this. If you want to just take it off here, if you're doing a motor swap, you want this plate to come separate from the motor. So the easiest way to get this thing out, crack these two 9/16s here loose. Don't take them off, just crack them loose. This 3/4 inch wrench. Once you get this bolt out, you can slide the motor back, it pops off. Be mindful that the bushing that goes in here stays on that pin, and make sure when you replace it that is still on there, otherwise this will not seat right, it'll slop and it won't sit at the right angle. To put it back in, if you grab it about in the center, it balances. It's not really light, but manageable. Just stick it back in on the inside first, and then line up this bolt. Hold the motor up so it's like about approximately level, maybe a little higher. Retighten this. Retighten these. This helps keep it centered on that pin. If you loosen this up too much, it'll fall off the pin if you bump it. So just crack these loose a little ways. So it kind of holds the motor towards center. Install your 1/4 inch bolts in the center. There's a center hole. This is a slot right here, but on straight up there's a hole that this bolt goes through, so it doesn't just fit in the slot somewhere. It goes in the top center, and also the other one is in the bottom center. Just start those on the nylock. Don't tighten them all the way. The reason we started on the nylock is so it doesn't fall apart if you're wiggling it around and drop in the sand so you can't find it, or mud or whatever. Install these two. Start with the top one. And then to line these, just align the holes of these two, just go up or down. And it will pull this bracket in and out. Put the same track on the same side, you shouldn't have to retension this. That's why I'm retightening this right now without doing a retention on it. Replace your 2 zip ties that you cut with that motor wire. When you're rerouting these, make sure that these 2 wires here, they're communication and actuator wires, don't get stressed or pulled on by how this motor wire is routed. There's slots in the plate for these zip ties so they hold themselves. Reinstall your drive sprocket. Be mindful where the key is. Make sure this is clean and anti-seized. Both the bolt shaft and the keyway. Retorque to 135 inch-pounds. If it's in the sand and you're doing this or whatever, dirt, it's going to be sitting like this and you just bend this out of the way. Put it back on. Set the top on first. Squeeze this. Get it on that back wheel. Take this wheel. Don't start at a huge angle. Try to start it as flat as you can and towards the outside of the track. It makes it the easiest to get it back on that axle. If you can't get it on that way, just release the tension and retension. Again, actually torque this with a torque wrench. Underneath the plastic again, just reversing the process. Install your cover, install your rear rack, and you're good to go.